Please welcome Microsoft MVP Dian Taylor. Today, she will be presenting her session, The Secret Features of D365 CE. Please stick around after Dian's session for a live Q&A.
My name is Dian Taylor, and first of all, I wanted to thank everybody at DynamicsCon for allowing me to do this presentation during this event. Now, before I get started, I wanted to go ahead and introduce myself real quick to everybody. So again, my name is Dian Taylor. I'm actually a director in pre-sales over at RSM, and I'm also a Microsoft MVP. Now, feel free to follow my blog. You can follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, and you can also see that I have a YouTube channel as well. So be sure to check those out as well. Now, as I'm going through this presentation, make sure that put all of your questions in chat. It doesn't matter where I'm at the presentation. If you have any questions, just drop them into the chat and I'll make sure to answer those. All right, so having said that, these are all the great things that I'm going to be talking about, right? All of the features that you might not be aware of if you're using Dynamics 365 customer engagement. Now, I'm not going to read through everything because there's too much and we only have so much time. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive right in. So the first thing that I wanted to mention to you guys is a new ability that we're going to have in Viva Sales, which is the ability to actually customize the forms. So that means that we're going to be able to change the forms by adding or removing fields that are currently related to those, right? So we're going to be able to edit those forms, and not just one form, obviously, right? We're going to be able to actually do that for account forms. So those are more like the customer forms, right? Contact forms as well, and opportunity forms as well. So I put some screenshots in here so you can kind of see where you need to do those configurations, because guess what? This is not inside of Dynamics 365 configuration or that configuration form, or I should say the make.portal, right, selection that you're usually going to. This is a little bit different. So you're going to go into Teams, and then as you can see on the screen, I have the Viva Sales app open inside of Teams. And then on the top there, next to Home, you can see a Settings tab, right? So just go ahead and click on the Settings tab, and this is where you will be doing your configurations or your customizations. So as you can see, we have those three forms that I just mentioned, right? So you can just go ahead and click on that little edit box that you see next to it. So let's just pretend we're going to edit the opportunity form. I'm going to go ahead and put that on there, and look at that. That's going to allow us to do some editing. So as you can see in the box below, you can click on the Add Field button there to then add either out-of-the-box system fields or your own custom fields directly to that opportunity form in Viva Sales. Now, the other thing that you can actually configure is the ability for your end users to actually edit the data in those fields. So you're going to see that up top it says allow editing, right? Choose whether sellers will be able to update opportunities directly from Viva Sales. And then below that, you see some fields, right, that would be on that form. And then you can say, I'm going to turn on the editing for those fields, but maybe not for some other fields. So really cool new feature that now became available here in Viva Sales. The next one I wanted to talk to you guys about is the ability to actually configure a custom status on your SLA timer. And this is really relevant to Dynamics 365 customer service. So you've probably seen that we got that new SLA timer control back in May of 2021. And the way that it works is that when we are creating, or when we actually have that SLA timer enabled on that case form, what you see over here, the message that you see under here below the different SLA KPI items, those you can now configure. Now, you do have to keep in mind that once you do that, that this is not actually going to change the value of that status in that SLA KPI instance, right? So it's not an update to something in the database. This is just for UI only. Right, so you can kind of see here the out-of-the-box statuses, right? The third line here on this slide. So we have succeeded, nearing non-compliance, and then we have non-compliance. So if you don't like those words, those phrases, whatever you'd like to call them, and you would like to replace them with something else, guess what? We can do that right now. So I'm going to explain to you how exactly that works. So there's a formula that you actually need to use when you put that control on your SLA timer inside of your case form, right? And that formula is language code and then an equal sign and then value and then a colon and then custom status. So you're going to say, okay, what the heck is that, right? I don't understand what that is. Okay, well, first of all, language code, it actually represents the language that is used. And you can actually Google language codes as well and find the correct language code. I think for English, it's like 10 something. We'll see in a second. Then we have value, and the value portion, as you can see, represents the actual value, so not the label, right? The value of the status option set in the SLA KPI instance. And what I mean by that are these things, right? You can see the label in progress. The value for that is 0. Then you have non-compliant, value 1, succeeded, value 4, etc. That's what I'm talking about, right? And then we have the custom status, and that is the status that we're going to show in that control, in that SLA timer, right? Once that item is succeeded or non-compliant or whatever that might be. So this is that example, right? So English is 1033 equals 4, and we said 4 is succeeded, right? That's that value of that SLA KPI instance. And then our value, our custom value that we want to show there, right, is that SLA met. And that's kind of what you see on the screen here, right? This is that end result once we have actually done that configuration. All right, now let me show you how we can enable that. Oops, I'm actually going to go back here. So I'm going to go here to my Dynamics 365 instance. And you can see here, I'm logged into the portal, make.powerapps.com. And then I'm going to go into tables here, and I'm going to look for, right, everybody knows it already, the case table. So let's just give it a second here while it takes me to my case table. And then once we get to the case table, what we want to do is we want to open the case form. So again, I'm just going to give it a second here. Now, while this is still going, oh, it's already there. I'm going to open a case like I just mentioned. And then we want to go to forms, right? That's where we want to configure this UI. So again, I'm going to give it a second here while it loads my forms. By the way, this is also something that you can do on the legacy form. So I'm just going to pull up the legacy form because we're still waiting for the other experience to load. So this is my, you can see that here, this is actually my SLA KPI instances. That's my SLA timer. And the only thing you have to do here is to really add a control. So if you click here on controls, you can see that I actually added the SLA timer. Now, what I just talked about, that control, is over here, right? Here is that language, then that is that value from that drop down, right? The status, and this is our custom status. Now, on this particular one, you can see that I configured two different statuses. One for status 1, right? SLA missed. And then one for succeeded at its number 4, SLA met. So that's how you can configure this for multiple statuses. Now let's go back here. Let's take a look at this in the Power Apps, the new experience, when this loads, because you can do the exact same thing here as well. You would just click again on that same area that I just showed you. So let's give it a second here while this loads. And then we're going to do the same thing. All right. And here it comes. There, this is where our SLA timer resides. as you can see, oops, let's click on that again. Here are my SLA timers. And if you scroll down here below components, that is my SLA timer. And look at that. Here is that value that you just saw in the legacy designer as well. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys. All right, now let's talk about a new way to view the release notes, right? We know that every 6 months we have new release notes that are coming out, and a lot of times there's changes and there's updates and something is being removed, and you don't know when some of these features are actually going to be in preview or GA, all that type of stuff, right? So that's why I would really recommend using the Dynamics 365 and Power Platform Release Planner. It is kind of like a portal experience, which is kind of nice. You can also look at the different apps in Dynamics 365 and just get those release notes. You can sort, you can filter, you can do all sorts of stuff. But it's really just an easier way to look at this information. And again, also being able to sort and filter some of this information makes it a lot easier as well. So this is something you definitely want to write down, experience.dynamics.com/release plans. That's where you can go to access the new release planner. The other thing that you can do from here, besides those items that I just mentioned, is you can actually download the full wave summary from the release planner as well. And some new features that just came out is actually the ability to share your personal release plans. And I'll show you in the demo exactly what I'm talking about. Now, on top of that, you can even add notes. So once you have your own release plan, which again, I will show you that in a second, that's really giving you an ability to kind of save certain features to your own release plan. And then what you can do is add notes to that, and you can even share, like I said earlier, your release plans with others as well. So I'll show you that in a second. Definitely try it out. And again, if you have any questions, just drop them right in the chat. Okay, so this is kind of what that looks like. And again, I'll be pulling it up in a demo in a second and show you exactly what that looks like. Now, before we do that, I wanted to also mention a feature that a lot of people might not know about, which is the guided channel setups, which are part of the customer service admin app. And this is really nice because it basically allows you to, first of all, set up or create these setups, so to speak, for the different channels in customer service. Right? So it could be, you could have an email channel, you can have a voice channel, etc. Right? But this is actually going to give you a list of steps that need to be completed when you are setting up that particular channel. So this really comes in handy with that. And I will be showing you that as well. Now, the nice thing with this is that when you are creating one of those guided setups, you don't have to finish everything, right? So maybe halfway through the setup, an admin is like, oh my goodness, I don't have time, or I need to go to lunch, or for whatever reason, they're not completing that setup, then they can always go back later. And other administrators can also see where the other person left off. So also very handy for that. So I'm going to go ahead and show you first. Let's first go to guided setups. Let me just pull up my environment here. And here we are in the customer service admin center. And if you're not 100% sure what I'm talking about, if you look here at the apps, this is the customer service admin center, right? So that's where you're going to go. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, right? So on the home page, you can see here my guided channel setup, right? So I can just click here on begin, and you're going to notice I don't have anything in there. You'll see that in a second. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, as an example, I'm going to say this is going to be my email channel, setup, and I'm going to click next. And then this is what I was talking about, right? I can set up a channel for email, for cases, for voice, and for chat. And my dog says goodbye. All right, so we're going to do the email channel. And I'm going to click next. And this is where the magic comes in right after this summary. So from here, I can still change the setup name. I can still change the channel name, but after that, once I click continue setup, look at that. This is magic, people. Look at that. Now, on the left side of the screen, look at that. It's giving me all the steps needed for me to set up my email channel, right? So it's saying user accounts, so you can just click on this admin center to access it. Then you can add users. Let's just say we did that. I'm going to click on next. Then it's going to give me some additional steps. Assign security roles, next. You need to enable the mailbox, next. Then I need to check the profile. So you can kind of see here, right? Here are the steps for my shared mailbox. These are the steps for my email queues, right? I need to define a queue. So again, great way to help admins very quickly to set up these different channels for customer service. And then I also wanted to show you, of course, right over here, the release planner, right, that I just mentioned. So this is the release planner, right? And you can see here, there's two different sections, right? There is all release plans or my release plans. And that's what I was talking about earlier. So first, let's talk a little bit about all release plans, right? So you can see here, I can review the data per the different apps. So currently I was in the marketing, now I'm switching over to sales. You can also see everything that is planned coming soon, and you can even try some of these features now. And as you can see below here, see, I can click on these little arrows here. If maybe I just want to see sales engagements, I can do that, and then I can collapse these individual features as well. On top of that, look at this. If you click on this, you can filter, right, by status. Is there anything that has changed, right? You can just filter by that. Maybe you want to view for early access dates, right? Or you want to see, oh, is this enabled for users or admins or makers? And again, which are the different release waves that we're looking at? Some nice things to view. Now, also, if you say, you know what, I really want to see this by GA date, you can just click on that icon, right? And this is going to group it by that particular theme. So you can do that as well. Now let's take a look at the My Release plans. So you can see that I logged in here already. And this is under the same tenant, right, as my Dynamics 365 and my Office 365 instance. So when I then go to My Release plans, I can now go ahead and, if I go back here, let me first do that, I can say, let's add some of these things, right, to my plan. This is how you do that. So you click on To My Plan, and then once you go to My Release plans, this is where this will show up then. Now from here, what I can do is I can actually share my release plan with others. So if there's other folks in your organization that you want to share this plan with and maybe kind of have some notes and talk to each other about that, you can do that as well. Because look at that. I actually have a section here that allows me to add notes. And I already have some notes here. Look at that. I was actually talking to Teresa to say like, hey, we need to keep our eye on this one. And then she responded, wow, I agree. This is a really nice feature. So definitely take a look at that one. Right? So again, really nice way to kind of look at everything that's coming in the release notes. All right. And then we have the autocomplete control. Now, this is another feature that sometimes when I talk to people about this, they're like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that that even existed. So what is this? Well, the name already says it, kind of, right? This is a control that we can add to a text field, a single line of text field or row or column, sorry. I keep mixing those two up in my head. So what this means is that we can actually tie a single line of text field to either a table view or an option set. And this includes system fields. So for example, we all know that the state field on contacts or leads, that's normally a single line of text field. So if you wanted to tie that to an option set that has all the states in there, you could, right, by using this control. So let me just go ahead and kind of show you what that looks like. We're going to navigate to leads here because I actually enabled this on a lead. And the other thing I did is I actually created a zip code table. So I'm tying this to a zip code field. So here you can see zip with autocomplete. And look, this is what that looks like. This is a text field, but it has that control on there. Those are my values. If I go in here and I type something else that's not in the list and I tab out, it's not going to save it. They will have to select any of those items from that list. So let's take a look at the configuration of this. Right, this is, again, opening up that field, and then we're going to click on controls. Like I said earlier, this is a control called autocomplete. And the source is where we can either tie this to a view or an option set. And here you can see this is the active zip codes view of my zip code table, or entity as it was called before, right? So that's how you can do that. And again, especially with some of those out-of-the-box fields that we already have for like state or maybe country, right? Country region, I believe, is the name of the field. So we're going to be able to make that a little bit better and also make that data entry a lot better by utilizing the autocomplete controls. Right, another one that you might not know about, maybe you do, but I think this is a very powerful one as well, is the ad-hoc Power BI reporting inside of Dynamics 365. With this feature, you're going to be able to actually generate a Power BI report with just a click of one button. And I'm not talking about bringing up an existing Power BI report that you created or somebody else created. No, no, no. The system will create the Power BI report for you based on your data. Now, obviously, the data that is used is dependent on the view that you're in. And you'll see in a second what I'm talking about. The report is also editable, so if you want to make some changes to it, you can definitely do that. Maybe you want to change some charts, you want to change some of the fields it's using. All of that is available as well. And once you're done with that, you can even save the report, right? I mean, how crazy is that? Super, super easy. So this is something that you need to turn on, though. You have to go to the app settings of any particular app, like Sales Hub or something like that, right? You're going to turn it on from there, and then you're going to publish that, and then everybody can enjoy that feature. So let's take a look at that. Again, if you have questions, don't forget to put them in the chat. So let's take a look at that. As you can see here, I'm navigating to leads here. And that's the button I was talking about. So when we're navigating to opportunities, I can change the view, right? Because that's what it's using to visualize that data. So currently it's just using the My Opportunities Health view. So here you can kind of see it's generating my report. You can see on the side, I have the option to change the data as well, right? If I want to use different fields for that, I can. So let's just go ahead and select pipeline phase here. And you can see that it automatically reloads and refreshes. Then we can also show this as a table, get inside, use the spotlight function, or like I said, just edit a chart, right? Maybe you want to change the axis, maybe select a different one. You can do that from here as well. You can see I'm changing something over here, and then you can even change the visualization type, the chart itself as well, and then you can save it, right? So here it's going to allow you, I'm not going to do that, but it's going to allow you to just give it a name, save it in your workspace, and you are done. And you just created a Power BI report. All right, how do we turn this on? Like I said, you have to go to the actual app you want to turn it on in. You got to go to edit, and this is going to load in a second. So we're going to go to settings, right? And then under features, if you scroll down a little bit, you should see, here it is, enable Power BI quick report visualization on a table. So just make sure that you set that to yes, and then everybody can take advantage of that. Pretty cool feature. I really like it. I think this is great. All right, so now another one that came out actually not too long ago. This was, let me see, this was 3 months ago in December, so it's not even that old. It's the new visualization of a case grid. And guess what? Yes, this is another control. So you can add this by enabling what you can see on the screen here, the PowerBI grid control. So you need to go to the case table and then you need to enable it on the case table. That's how you turn it on. When you do that, you also notice that there's actually, well, the view is already there. It's a new case view, and it's called Enhanced Active Cases. And that has all of the fields that are part of that modernized case grids. And you'll see that in a second when I show you the screenshot and when I demo this to you. Now, it's important. This is very important. I just figured this out with the help of some other folks that were actually sending me some emails and contacting me on my blog. So we figured out that there's actually a next SLA field on that grid that is part of that solution, right? Now, the thing to know is that that next SLA that only shows the SLA KPI instance with the earliest expiration time. And you're going to say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, if let's say you have an SLA that has 2 SLA KPI instances or 2 SLA items that then turn to SLA KPI instances when, right, it's activated on a case. Maybe you have one SLA KPI instance that is like follow-up or first acknowledgement or something like that, and you have a second one to complete the case. If that first one is non-compliant, but the second one is counting down, right? Because we're still counting down, we haven't met compliance or non-compliance yet. It's not going to show the second one. It's just going to show that that first one is non-compliant. Yeah, so I want you guys to know about that. The other thing I want you to know is that it seems to break the grid filtering. You know how if you are in a grid and you pull up the chart and you click on the chart, it filters out the records in the grid? It doesn't do that with this. So keep that in mind as well. This is what it looks like. It looks pretty nice, right? So this was what I was talking about, this next SLA field, right? So you have to be cognizant of that it actually does that. And again, if I would pull up the chart and try to drill into it, nothing really happens. So keep that in mind. And the other thing I wanted to mention is I actually tried to use this control on a different table and it worked. This is pretty cool, right? I added it to the account table and look at that. It actually is picking up all of this is a custom field called account type, and I added some colors to it and it's picking up the color. So I thought that was kind of sweet. So let me show you what this looks like. I'm going to go back here again to my environments. And here it's an omni-channel for customer service. Here is my enhanced active cases grid. So here you can see, right, that next SLA. Oops, I got some notifications going on here. Ooh, it's going crazy here. Let's just get rid of those. So here you can see I have 43 minutes and 31 seconds left. But what I wanted to show you, I believe, is this high priority case. Let me open this up. This first SLA, let's just hope it's the right one. Let's see what happens. But the first SLA, we're non-compliant. The second one, we are in warning. We have 1 hour and 13 minutes left. But if I look on my grid, it's not showing that second one. It's just showing that non-compliant SLA. I don't really like that much. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And then, of course, showing the chart, right? If I now show, or if I drill into any of those charts, let me just go ahead and say, I don't know, my active cases. Okay, I'm going to drill into this one. It's not doing anything. It's not filtering that list. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is that we have a lot of options here in settings. So when you actually add that control, you can do different things here. Now, I can update this, but I have to click on this twice. We're not used to that, right? So make sure that you kind of understand that that's what you want to do. If you want to learn more about this, I actually wrote an in-depth article on this on my website, D365 Goddess. Just search for, right, this control, and then you will find it. All right. Then the next one I wanted to show you is the duplicate detection for leads. This is, I believe this is still in preview today, but the first thing I wanted to mention that it's very different from the duplicate detection rules that we are familiar with out of the box, right? But this kind of works hand in hand with those. And currently, this is only going to work for leads. This is just duplicate detection for leads. Is this coming for other tables as well, like contacts? I don't know. I think so, but I have no idea. My guess would be yes, but we'll have to wait and see. The nice thing with this is it actually uses an AI model with rules that are based on fuzzy logic and match codes. And I'll explain to you in a second what that means. So what it can do is it could actually flag duplicates for similar names that have the same email domain, and I'm going to get into that a bit later. And obviously, because it's an AI model, we cannot configure the logic for that, right? Again, it's an AI model, but it does need to be turned on. Most of the things that I touched on today, I wrote an article about. So if you want more information, definitely check out my blog. But if you have any questions in the meantime, just put them in the chat. All right, so the logic rules, right? It's going to flag things with the same email address, same phone number, and you're going to say, duh, what else is new? This is new. A similar lead name and the same company name. So you have one lead that's called Rob Murphy, M-E-R-P-H, and another lead, Rob Murphy, M-U-R-P-H, and both are at the same company. It's going to flag that as a duplicate. Similar lead name and the same email domain. Same thing. jmurphy@abc.com, jmurphy with a U at abc.com. It's going to flag that. That's that fuzzy logic, right? You do have to turn this on, and this is where you can do that, right? You can see here that it says detection rules enabled, and what's going to happen is it's going to allow you to then use that functionality in the application. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to go to leads here, and I actually entered a couple of duplicates so that I can show you what this looks like. So I'm going to select this lead, and look at that. View duplicates. We did not have that button before. That one came along before, because I should say, we enabled this functionality, right? So here you can kind of see the duplication of those leads. I can merge. I can uncheck it, and I can say this is not a duplicate. I can delete it, right? I can do any of that. You also see the highlights, why it actually showed it to me as a duplicate. So that's kind of how that works inside of the application. Another one, which I think is a really nice one, is the form component control. And what this is actually allowing you to embed a form within another form. And you're going to say, well, we could do that already. We have quick view forms. Yes, but with quick view forms, you cannot edit the data in the embedded form, right? We can't do that. Now, this is actually a form that has been used already for quite some time inside of Dynamics 365 Field Service. If you look at the mobile app, you can see, right, the work order products, the work order services, the work order tasks. All of those are form component controls, right? Embedded forms inside of a parent, I almost want to say parent forms. Now, right, this is not a quick view form because data in that child record is editable. It is based on a lookup, right? So you have to have that one-to-many relationship with that table. So in this case here, you can see primary contact is Angel Castellar. So that's a lookup. That's a lookup from the contact perspective, one contact versus multiple accounts. So that is the one-to-many relationship in there. And then you definitely want to make sure that you note this, that embedded form, it needs to be a main form. So it can't be a quick create form. It cannot be a quick view form. It needs to be a main form. Obviously, you're not going to, have the main form with like a lot of boxes there, right? And all these different areas because it wouldn't look very good. But again, the form type is a main form. And then don't forget to also add that embedded form to your model-driven app. I actually forgot to do that, and I spent 3 hours not understanding why I couldn't see the form. That was why, so make sure that you do that. So the form components control, let me bring that up here real quick. What I actually did is, again, I have a recording on this as well, so I'm not going to go super deep. But what I am going to do is I'm going to open this account form because it actually has that. Oh, here's my notifications again, telling me my cases are failing and nearing non-compliance. So I actually configure this primary contact tab over here. And this is a difference between the quick view form, right? I cannot enter any or change any of this data over here. But once my form control loads, you're going to be able to see that, oh, look, I can change things now, right? That's the difference. That's the difference between those two forms. And again, if you want to know more, if you have questions, throw them in the chat. And if you want to learn more about this, definitely check out my website and just search for that particular control, all right? The form component control. All right. Lastly, I want to talk about the in-app notifications. This is actually perfect timing. You guys just saw them come in, right? All of my SLAs that were non-compliant and nearing non-compliance and that type of stuff. Those are in-app notifications. They're not push notifications. As you saw earlier, this is not going to a mobile device. This is going to my model-driven app in the browser, right? So that's what that is. It's probably also going to work. I haven't tried this yet on like a iPad or a tablet or something like that, but I'm assuming because that's also a model-driven app, that's where you will see those notifications. Now, the way that you create those, and you're probably going to say, hey, what are you talking about? We're creating these notifications by a Power Automate flow. Why? Because these notifications are actually rows in a database, right? So keep that in mind. It's actually not too hard to do it, but I would definitely recommend using XRM Toolbox to create them. I actually created an article on that, but I'm going to show you what I'm talking about because I still have time to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up XRM Toolbox. And I'm connected to my environments. So what you can do, unfortunately this is a little tiny and I can't make it bigger, but what you can do here is this is what that notification will look like, a little bit of a preview, right? It says it right here. So I can change that title. Here is my title. I can change the body. Hello, hello. I cannot type today for whatever reason. Then, right, we have, do we want that actually timed or hidden? I usually leave it untimed. And then because they are records and we don't want it to like completely stock up our database, we can actually set an expiration time. I want this to expire in 2 minutes, right? Or 2 hours or days or weeks. So you can set that as well. Then you also notice we have a little icon over here. That's the info icon. We have other ones. You can see here success, failure, warning, all sorts of icons. But I can also create a custom icon. Now, what I mean by that, a custom icon is a web resource. As you can see over here, there's already a whole bunch of web resources that are images inside of my CRM system. Look at that, the old Yammer disable message, or I should say image, not message. Let's see here, we have email. Oh, that one looks cool, right? So you can use any of those, obviously. And then maybe let's just go back here to kind of show you what I'm talking about. Look, some of those notifications actually said, oh, do you want to open the record? Okay, that's pretty nice. I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to say, I'm going to add an action. And I'm going to say open. This is going to say open. And I can open this. I'm going to do a new window. And it's a URL. And then obviously the URL, you would actually fill this out later, right? What you can do is you can say, if this is a case, it's going to be something like, let me actually open this case, right? Like you're going to grab this and then, oops, later on, you're going to add this particular piece, right? That's that unique case ID. But in the meantime, I can just grab this and I can just go ahead and do this. I know that, and I can say create. Look at that. Boom. Now we have that as well. Then I can say, let's just go ahead and test this. Who do I want to assign this to? Can I find myself? Yes, I'm going to say test. And what that is going to do is it is actually going to show that notification in here in a second. Now you've already seen that, so I'm not going to wait for that. Lastly, I can click on Get Code and look at this. These are the fields that you will need in Power Automate. So you can just copy and paste this, right? Here's my expiry, the owner, right? And I'm just going to go ahead, oops, and I'm just going to show you that Power Automate flow. And we're going to go to make.powerautomates.com. So that makes it so much easier, right, to now create those types of notifications inside of Dynamics 365, inside of the Power, or I should say model-driven app. So let's see here if I can, yeah, I'm going to go to my flows. And let's just give it a, let me see here. Here's my, that's my first, here, my in-app notification. This is actually on case assignment, but it doesn't matter what the trigger is. I'm going to say edit. And you'll see the flow is really short. It's really easy, but it's nice to be able to just grab that data, right? These are the fields that you just saw below here. Here you go. Expiry, right? Icon type. And I have some additional information, right? This is some of that dynamic content in here as well that I can use. Again, if you want to learn more about that, definitely check out my article that I wrote on that. And then one more thing, email validation. This is really the system's way to review email addresses in and actually give, I wasn't saying notifications, not a notification. It's really a visual warning, right? As you can see here, saying that your email is incorrect for this particular lead. This is also something that needs to be turned on. Again, currently only for leads. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we're going to get this for contact as well. Now, when you turn this on, the validation is going to start. This is only going to validate leads that are less than 180 days old. And it looks at the created or edited old, right? So if you edited anything within those 180 days or you created a lead within that time frame, it's going to be included. Now, this is not available in custom apps. So if you have your own custom app, this is not going to be available for that. So with that, thank you guys so much for joining my session again. Thank you to everybody from DynamicsCon for allowing me to present. And hopefully until next time, have a great day, guys.